smarter impact is about going beyond ourselves, our work, and our communities. It's about enabling better choices that make a difference in people's lives. And recognizing that everything is connected. To make a smarter impact, we must be knowledge-led, human-centric, and optimistic. Ready to make a smarter impact? Talk with our team or visit our website to learn how.
Good afternoon. My name is Barry Nevitt. I'm principal in charge with Stantec Architecture in Austin, Texas. And with me today is...
Hi, I'm Drew Johnson. I'm a director of our construction management department at Austin ISD.
And we're here today. We're going to talk to you a little bit about Doss Elementary School. It's the school in the trees. And it is in conjunction with our design build partner, Bartlett Construction.
So the story of Doss really begins with the story of the 2017 bond program. And I'm going to take us through kind of that planning process and how we got to this project. So the 2017 bond program really dates back to beginning in 2016 with AISD putting together the FAB Pact, the Facility and Bond Planning Advisory Committee, to advise them on future investments in our campuses. In 2013, AISD had seen at the polls 2 of their 4 bond propositions fail. And so the deferred maintenance load was continued to increase. So it was really important that this planning process results in a successful passage of a bond referendum to fund these projects. So that process started back in 2016. One of the first things that happened was just a matter of data collection, of going across the entire district and collecting facility condition as well as educational suitability assessments. And that began this planning process, which you kind of see laid out before you, ultimately culminating in the passage of the 2017 bond program with 72% from the voters of Austin, and then seeing projects like this come into fruition, like Doss Elementary. Next slide. So I want to take you through just kind of an overview of what that process was. Next slide. So educational suitability assessment, as some of y'all are probably aware, is really a way of studying and quantifying the way that our buildings support the modern needs of teaching and learning. This isn't just the bricks and the sticks of what works and what doesn't, but this is asking some of those softer questions. Do we have the right spaces for teaching and learning? Do we have natural light? Do we have access to the outdoors? Do we have these things that help our campuses really support the work our teachers are doing? Next slide. So the FCA obviously is a large process, a lot of data gathered from folks at our service center, deferred maintenance logs, also sending architects and engineers to look at the facilities. But we also take that information out to the communities and ask for feedback in that way. We want to make sure that our communities understand how we arrived at the recommendations we're arriving and ultimately are supportive of the process. Next slide. So all that data that is collected ultimately supported our district-wide master planning process and an update of our ed specs. So that first step is just data collection. It's collecting information, our FCAs, our ESAs, our demographics, information about our vertical teams and boundaries. And then really, we begin to move into more of the visioning. What are these academic programs that we're driving towards? How do we want our schools to support what's happening in the classroom, what's happening with our staff, what's happening with our students? And then really step 3 is getting that community feedback. We are a public school district. We look to our communities to advise us and guide us, and we also know that many of our best ideas start with them. So those data points kind of go into this mixer, part of the process. You've got FCA, ESA, demographics, but then you also layer in your values. We look at our strategic plan. We look at the community input we've heard, and we filter all that through a series of stakeholders. That's the Facility and Bond Planning Advisory Committee, but that's also our campus level CACs. That's also our principals who lead our schools. That's also our board and superintendents as well as our staff who have to be confident we can implement ultimately the plan that we decide. But what that resulted in was a master plan approved in April of 2017 that set the direction for modernization in the district. Modernization is thinking holistically about how we come in and improve our buildings. Sometimes that means replacing them to bring them up to our modern standards and help them serve our students. So with this process, we also updated our educational specifications, which ultimately were used to design Doss Elementary and other schools in this bond program. And some of the things you'll see in those ed specs that really inform our designs are the desire for flexible learning spaces. We want a variety of spaces that can change over time. We want classrooms that can be used in new and innovative ways. We also want community spaces. We know that most of our campuses function as community spaces. What if we designed them to work better that way? What if we thought about secure access through vestibules? What if we thought about controlling traffic on site with more intentionality so we can welcome our communities safely into our campuses? Things like community rooms, which we'll hear about, which have a diverse use to meet these needs. These principles ultimately are what Stantec and the design build team working with our campus implemented to create what you're going to see, which is Doss Elementary. So the old ed specs were viewed as being very prescriptive. They were inflexible, they were outdated. It was kind of a one-size-fits-all model. And we heard from a lot of our campuses that wasn't working. We've rewritten them to be much more performance-based, much more driven by choice within each local community, and much more adaptable to each campus. Every one of our 130 school communities in AISD is unique. We want an ed spec that helps them and helps elevate them, not one that holds them back. And that means being a little flexible with each of them. And just for a bit of perspective, this process was lengthy. It involved a lot of engagement with our community, a lot of community meetings, a lot of listening and distilling information, and then sharing that back up to our leadership and getting feedback from them. Next slide. Go ahead, next slide. But ultimately, that planning process over 7 months, over 60 plus individuals involved on our planning committees, over 24 meetings. One of our communication and engagement folks recently told me that we collected over 2,000 pieces of community feedback, which we read, assessed, categorized, and ultimately influenced this process. But I think it resulted in exactly what our community wanted and delivered a school that is going to have an impact to them for generations to come.
So we want to start talking about the program, and one of the things that Drew pointed out was the new ed spec was designed to be flexible and adaptable as it ran into specific needs on specific campuses. And that's exactly what we did when we were assigned the project at Doss. One of the first things that hit us immediately was that the ed spec is designed around a school capacity of 870 students. Doss has 940 students. That meant that we not only needed to increase the number of classroom studios, but also the core space, the library, some of the other core spaces need to increase in size. One of the things that was changed, the principal came to us from day one, along with the other members of their CAT team, which is their campus advisory team, and said, number one desire was to make certain that they had a space where they could assemble the entire student body and all of the staff at one time. And as we go through this process, you're going to see that the resulting solution to that request really becomes the major factor in the design of the school and becomes really the heart of the design that ultimately developed into Doss. And of course, there had to be trade-offs we still had to balance in order to create the budget. So in order to accommodate some of those other changes, for example, we made the decision to maintain the existing gymnasium of the school and rather than build a new one, thereby offsetting some of the growth that was needed in the program elsewhere. One of the other things that had a big impact on the project was the fact that the city of Austin had a 1/4 interest in the site, which meant that over 6 acres of land area had to be preserved as parkland for the city of Austin. And initially it was thought that we weren't going to be able to redefine the boundaries of that 6 acres. Ultimately, with the cooperation of the school district and the city of Austin, we were able to do that in a way that I think is a true win-win for the entire community. You want to add to that, Drew?
Yeah, we initially thought that we would need to rebuild the initial campus within roughly the footprint of where it had been because of this park boundary. You'll see on some of our site plans that the park boundary encompasses about 2/3 of the site. But one of the things that was great is early on, as we were looking at all these programming challenges in the site, Stantec kind of brought before us a solution and said, hey, if this park boundary can move, if this can be adjusted, if we can build on some of this that is partially owned by the city and park, we actually can have a design solution that I think is a much better approach to this campus. Ultimately, they demonstrated that to be the case, and so we were able to go back to the city and work with them to find a way to ultimately change the real estate ownership and boundaries of that asset that met the needs of the park, met the needs of the school, and ultimately I think is a much more elegant solution.
So one of the things that really became clear from day one, as we were approached by members of the CAT team, and the CAT team included not only the principal and staff members, but parents and students as well. The one thing that became very clear through that entire process was that the community envisioned Dawes Elementary as being the school within the trees. They really saw that was their legacy, both with the existing building, but they wanted that to be a continuation with the new facility as well. They wanted that identity moving forward. And so hence really became the idea, the vision, that the school is actually the tree house within the trees. And through that, we began exploring, well, what exactly does a tree house provide? Well, obviously it's a place for play, and it's the ultimate childhood fort as a play station, as a home base for kids who have that tree house. But it also provides shelter for that space. And it also is a place where you can observe the world around you and learn from that observation. So that really, those are the types of measures that we want to incorporate from the treehouse concept as a place of security, a place of learning, a place of play that engages everyone who embarks to come across that facility. And as we talk about the site a little bit more in detail, you can see that the site truly is, the existing school was truly engulfed and surrounded by trees throughout the entire campus, as well as the park. And you can see the area that to the top of the screen where there were portables in a parking lot. Ultimately, that became our building footprint outside of the tree area so that we could preserve not only the trees, but preserve the parkland and redefine that as well. The site at Dawes is rather unique. It sits at the top of a hill above what used to be an old quarry and is now the site of Murchison Middle School. That rather steep hill from the old quarry actually places the Dawes Elementary School really at the pinnacle of visibility for the entire community, especially as you approach it along the street known as Far West, which is on the top portion of the site. It becomes really a beacon for the entire community moving forward. And the surrounding neighborhood is really made up primarily of single-family residential. There is also multifamily and some institutional and commercial interest as well, but it is largely a family neighborhood on the northwest side of Austin. And these are some views that you can see really from the top of that Dawes Hill. And you can actually see downtown Austin from the top of the hill, as well as you get the sense of, it really is a bluebonnet field during the spring on the Dawes Hill. And then you get a sense of the trees and the network that surrounds the building and the park as a part of the feature. And you see that in reality, they truly were, Dawes Elementary truly was the school in the trees from that perspective. So you see that this was kind of the planning feature as it began to emerge from the very earliest stages. You see the red bars become what we began to refer to as the billboards for the school. The one on the right really facing the entire community at the top of Doss Hill, and then the one to the left, which became the billboard and the beacon for the front entry of the school. And then we were basically able to define the school itself along the boundaries of Far West Boulevard and preserve that network of trees and utilize that as both the parkland and as exterior learning space. And you see in this drawing, this is the site plan as it began to emerge through the schematic and design development phases. And you see the new building there flanking the Far West Boulevard. You see the blue line is actually the boundary of the original park, and then there's a fainter red line that defines the park as it was reshaped through the design process. And you see that we've incorporated the park and exterior learning spaces to really become positive features on the school, both for the community and for the students and school itself. Looking at the floor plans, the building is really composed of 3 floors. The initial ground floor is where that common space is, and you'll begin to see how that dining and central learning stair space really becomes the heart of the school. It is able to be the assembly space for really over 1,000 people and students in the space learning, and that also is our cafeteria, kitchen, and building support space. But then the performing arts spaces are located on this level as well, so that they have immediate access to the stage. To the lower portion of this, on the bottom side of it, is basically the bridge to connecting to the existing gymnasium that was preserved, and outdoor learning opportunities that were captured between the existing gymnasium and the dining space, and really is quite a calling card for the school. Again, in addressing the ed specification, incorporating exterior learning spaces is just another way of meeting that goal of providing flexible learning for the students and the schools, and helps incorporate that environment of the trees back into the actual learning environment of the students. The second floor, which is actually grade level, street level, at the front entry of the building, the red area at the lower portion is the administration office, and then the yellow space is the library and media center, surrounded by the blue studio spaces and classrooms. And I want to talk a little bit about the community room and library on this level. The lower portion of the library is actually the community room, which is a space that's dedicated specifically to community use from outside parties or inside parties within the school. It has its own exterior entry so that it can be used after hours without compromising security within the school itself. But it also has a folding partition that will allow the library to fold into that community space and either grow the community space as needed or allow the library additional flexibility as an instructional space. And again, you see outdoor at the front entry, there's flexible outdoor learning spaces and courtyards and gathering space so that outdoor learning is incorporated at that level as well. The purple spaces in the building are visual arts and fine art spaces, which are in support of the curriculum as well. And then you see the lighter blue areas, those are maker spaces and flexible learning spaces, again, incorporating those into the classroom academic houses of studios. And then finally, on the third floor, the library does extend up to that level with a specialized reading room. And then our upper grade level classrooms, third, fourth, and fifth grades are located on this level. And again, you see the maker spaces and flexible learning spaces that are spread throughout the academic learning houses. Moving on, we began looking at the exterior design, and again, reflecting the design of the incorporating of the tree house and how that tree language begins to reflect itself and express itself through the design, whether that's the branch, trunk and branch structure of the tree itself, or the shadow and shading patterns that are created through the canopy of the trees, and ultimately how you frame a view of openings between trees. All of those elements begin to find their way into the facade of the school in ways that are expressive of the tree in nature, and begin to express that that structure within the trees. And now we begin to see kind of the building taking shape. And here you see the billboard that's the calling card really for the front entry of the school, the parent drop off here at the front of the school, outdoor learning environment provides flexible learning at the front of the school, as well as the incorporation of the trees on the site. And just a little closer view of that front entryway. The library is to the left, bridging between the studio structure with the brick area on the left, and the billboard rising above the administrative offices at the front of the building. And then we have the billboard at the rear of the building, which also serves as canopy for the bus drop-off circulation route, as well as providing the porch, which provides views for the visual arts program and the views of downtown over the Doss Hill. And this is that bridge area and outdoor learning space outside of the cafeteria dining space, and is the link between the main academic building and the existing gymnasium, which was renovated and maintained. That interior design also reflects many of these same concepts and images throughout. And you see that same shadowing, the sense of the shading shadow, the framing of openings, as well as the branch network expressed throughout the interior design as well. And really, that begins at the front door with the expression using natural wood, using the owl, which was the existing mascot and is maintained throughout the school and is expressed in new ways throughout the building in different learning locations. But you see natural wood exposed and used to express that wood sense of warmth and a sense of basically the warmth and kindness and texture to the new building. It's used throughout. And here you see the view at the top of the stair looking down onto the cafeteria dining area, and the stage really becomes the heart of the school. The volume is the full 3 stories of the building, and it's transparent from all of the levels of the building, basically allowing learning spaces at each level of the building to look down and share in that use of space. And here you have the view back from the stage, back towards the learning stair. Give you a little bit, again, the sense of scale in that space. Yeah,
if I may add, when we heard from our the cat there at the local campus that they wanted a space large enough to host all of their kids for morning assemblies. Frankly, we told them that's not a space in the ed spec for a school of this size. We don't build giant theaters at our elementary schools. But the community was very adamant that that was something they wanted, and we kind of challenged Stantec to, can you find a way to do this? This was ultimately within the bounds of our ed specs by combining a number of spaces. So being able to have the stage, the cafeteria, some of the circulation, the learning stair, and even the library, which backs up to the top of the stair, really did solve that desire from the community within the constraints of the project, both our design standards, things like budget as well. And it's a solution that we're very, very proud of and happy to see kids in now.
And then the library is a very special space, and I really have to give kudos to the librarian at Doss. The existing library at Doss was a space that she had made certain was a very special learning space, even within the context of the older building. It was a really dynamic and exciting and engaging learning space. And she wanted to make certain that the library carried those same traits forward moving in to the new facility. And so we really have what is a two-story facility with in the library with the second floor engaged in a special learning and reading room that is connected by a spiral staircase that's at the heart of the library. There are adjacent spaces that bring in and engage students, whether they are some of the maker spaces, the learning stairs directly outside, and as we discussed earlier, the community room, which is open via folding partition and is an expansion of the library.
Yeah, you can see if you look in the back of the library over the bookshelves there, a door towards the left that actually takes you into one of our 2 maker spaces on the campus. This campus had such a culture of using their library at all points during the day for all kinds of lessons, all kinds of subject matter, that we really saw a tremendous opportunity here to give them a maker space, which in Austin ISD right now, no one teacher owns or controls, but it's a shared space that's scheduled adjacent to their library. And that'll allow them to use the library often for research and projects where they're gathering information, and then send those kiddos right next door into the makerspace where they can work on a project. They can apply what they've learned towards something more hands-on and tactile and project-based learning. We're shifting to makerspaces in all of our campuses. We know many schools accommodate them. And Doss here with 2 makerspaces, uniquely located, kind of uniquely designed, has really presented an opportunity to increase and expand that learning on campus.
So here's the view from that second story of the library with the special reading room that's connected. And again, you see the richness of the wood, the texture that adds warmth and tactile feel is engaging to students and young children. It becomes a really special place. This really kind of is the tree house within the tree house of the entire school. It looks out over the learning stair in the cafeteria commons as on one side, and on the other side it's looking over the rest of the balance of the library. So it's full of transparent learning at every level and is engaging to the students as a special learning environment. And this is a view of a typical classroom. I say typical, but it's really not. The idea and the concept of transparent and flexible learning is incorporated into every classroom. There are folding glass partitions at the front of each classroom, which allow the academic house to expand beyond the walls of a single classroom and allowing multiple classrooms and teachers and groups of students to collaborate together, to team together, and share the common flexible learning spaces that are outside of the classroom. And as Drew mentioned, we have 2 maker spaces within the building. The second one is located on the 3rd floor and is the OWL workshop for the upper grades. It brings the same concept. Students can move directly from their classrooms into the maker space to work on special projects throughout the day. They can work throughout the day on a multitude of specialized projects moving through their the workspace. And then really one of the special bonus spaces in the school is the back porch. Looking out from the rear billboard of the building down Doss Hill, down Doss Hill, you can see views of downtown beyond and really the spectacular calling card that is Doss Elementary School. It's an icon for the entire facility and a special space for the students. So as we work with Austin ISD and in their building program, one of the requirements is that the buildings achieve a level of sustainability, which is not often met with schools, or a lot of our clientele are not demanding. But DOS and Austin ISD have those goals in place, and we're proud to be able to tell you that we are on track to achieve a LEED version 4 silver rating. Gold is still possible while that process is still working out, and the evaluation is still is being performed now. We believe that it may still be possible for us to achieve a gold rating. We also are going to achieve a 3-star rating under the Austin Energy Green Building Program, which is equivalent to the LEED program. So we've really been able to accomplish a lot of those sustainability goals by really the partnership that we have, not only with our design build partner, Barlacott Construction, but also with Austin ISD and its commitment. Austin ISD made certain that we had the advanced commissioning that was needed, as well as the metering concepts, and helped us work with the city to minimize the parking requirement and impact that we have on the site. Some of the other things that really contributed to this, and probably to the sustainability, and I would start with the compact footprint. Really, we've packed a lot of school within the shell of this building, and has really contributed in every facet. There's not a square footage that we've built or constructed that does not have multiple function within the building. And so that really contributes to the sustainability of the building. Also, the choice of a very highly efficient exterior envelope contributes and reduces our energy use. And that, of course, incorporates our glazing standards, which allow natural daylight in where we need it, to the levels that we need it, but protect us from heat gain from overexposure to the sun. We're also very efficient with our water usage, and that includes on the site design incorporating rain gardens and other features to manage our stormwater systems in the building. We've reduced our heat island, and I'm proud to say that in all of the trees that were on the site, I don't think we lost more than four trees across the entire campus as we incorporated and completed the entire building construction and demolition of the existing school. And that included a monument tree that was incorporated into the design as an exterior learning space that previously had been in an interior courtyard of the existing building. So we were able to maintain that as well. So we've really incorporated a great many sustainable features into the design, and they're going to continue to pay dividends to the community as we move forward. Indoor air quality, and of course our contractor has contributed through that process by maintaining adequate air quality management through the construction process, as well as their waste management systems throughout construction. And really just want to close today with this quote. This quote's actually on the wall of the library. I think it's a great quote in regards to the treehouse, but I think it's actually where the sidewalk ends is what brings true meaning to me. Where the sidewalk ends is the collection point. It's the point where you engage with nature. It's the point where you engage with education, and that all the sidewalks lead to that point at Doss Elementary School. And I hope that and believe that we have created an environment that is unique and special, and will provide a benefit and contribute to the education of the children of Northwest Austin for generations to come.
Yeah, it really is a tremendous project. One that kids are now in, and was able to see them there over the last few weeks, albeit a little bit different circumstances than we had imagined. but just tremendous to see the staff and the principal and the kids in the building and really enjoying this investment that the community's made for them.
And with that, we will address any questions or answers, provide questions and answers as you see fit. So thank you for your time.